Fyodor Dostoevsky, The Beggar Boy at Christ's Christmas Tree. Chapter 1. The Boy with the Hand. Children are a strange people. They appear in dreams and visions. Before the Christmas tree and even among the branches of the tree, I met on the street, at a well-known corner, a little boy who could be no older than 7. In the dreadful frost, he was dressed almost summer-like, but his neck was wrapped in some old rags, which means someone had prepared him for the cold. He was going with a hand, which is a technical term for begging. This term was invented by such boys themselves. There are many like him. They spin along your path and howl out some memorized phrases, but this boy did not howl and spoke innocently and unaccustomedly, looking trustingly into my eyes, which meant he was just beginning his profession. In response to my inquiries, he informed me that he had a sister who was out of work and ill. It may have been true, but later I learned that there were countless such boys. They are sent out with a hand, even in the most severe frost, and if they don't gather anything, they are surely met with beatings. After collecting a few kopecks, the boy returns with red, numb hands to some cellar, where a gang of careless drunks is carousing, the same ones who, on strike at the factory, return to work not earlier than Wednesday evening. There their hungry and battered wives are drinking with them, and nearby their hungry infants are crying. Vodka, filth, and debauchery, but mainly vodka. As soon as the boy has collected some kopecks, they immediately send him to the tavern to bring back more wine. For sport, they sometimes pour a sip into his mouth and laugh when he, gasping for breath, falls almost unconscious to the floor. When he grows up, they quickly send him somewhere to work in a factory, but all he earns he must bring back to the drunks who drink it away again. By the time these children reach the factory, they have already become hardened criminals. They wander around the city and know all the places in various basements where they can sneak in and spend the night unnoticed. One such boy slept for several nights in a basket belonging to a janitor, and the man never noticed him. It goes without saying that they become thieves. Theft becomes a passion even for 8-year-old children, sometimes without any awareness of the criminal nature of their actions. In the end, they endure everything, hunger, cold, beatings, just for one thing, for freedom, and they run away from their careless guardians to become vagrants on their own. This wild creature sometimes understands nothing, neither where he lives, nor what nation he belongs to, nor whether there is God or a ruler. Even such things are conveyed about them that are incredible to hear, and yet it is all fact. Chapter 2. The Boy at Christ's Christmas Tree. But I am a novelist, and I seem to have invented a story. Why do I write seem when I know for sure that I invented it? It's just that I cannot shake the feeling that it happened somewhere and at some time. Specifically, this happened right before Christmas, in some immense city and in dreadful frost. I envision a boy in a cellar, but very small, perhaps around 6 years old or even younger. This boy woke up one morning in a damp, cold basement. He was dressed in a little ragged robe and was shivering. His breath came out in white puffs, and sitting in the corner on a chest, out of boredom, he deliberately exhaled this vapor from his mouth to amuse himself watching it escape. But he was very hungry. Several times in the morning, he approached the bunks where his sick mother lay on a thin bedding, as flat as a pancake, with a bundle under her head instead of a pillow. How had she ended up here? She must have come with her son from a distant city and suddenly fell ill. The landlady had been taken away by the police 2 days ago. The tenants had scattered, it was a holiday, and the only caretaker lay dead drunk for a whole day, not waiting for the celebrations. In another corner of the room, an 80-year-old woman groaned from rheumatism, having once lived somewhere as a nurse, now dying alone, moaning and grumbling at the boy, so that he was already afraid to approach her corner closely. He managed to find some drink in the hallway, but he couldn't find any crusts of bread. After approaching his mother for the 10th time, already to awaken her, he finally felt frightened in the darkness. It had long begun to get dark, and no fire had been lit. Touching his mother's face, he was astonished that she was completely motionless and as cold as the wall. "It's very cold here," he thought, standing there for a moment, unconsciously leaving his hand on the shoulder of the deceased, Then he blew on his little fingers to warm them, and suddenly, feeling for his cap, he quietly groped his way out of the basement. He could have gone out earlier, but he was always afraid of a large dog that howled at the neighbor's door all day. But the dog was already gone, and he suddenly found himself outside. Oh Lord, what a city! He had never seen anything like it before. Where he came from, it was such black darkness at night, with only one lantern for the whole street. The wooden low houses were shuttered. On the street, as soon as it began to get dark, there was no one. Everyone locked themselves in, and only whole packs of dogs howled. Hundreds and thousands of them howled and barked all night. But there it was warm, and they fed him, and here, oh Lord, if only he could eat. And the noise and clamor here, how the light shines, and the people and the horses and the carriages and the frost. Frozen steam pours from the exhausted horses, from their warm breathing muzzles. The sound of horseshoes clangs against the stones through the soft snow, and everyone is pushing against each other, and oh Lord, how he wishes to eat even a little piece, and his little fingers suddenly hurt so badly. A street officer passed by and turned away so as not to see the boy. Here he is again on the street. Oh, how wide it is. They might crush him here, underfoot. How they all shout, run, and ride, and the light, oh, the light. And what is that? Wow, what a big window. And behind the glass, a room. And in the room, a tree reaching to the ceiling. It's a Christmas tree, and how many lights on it. How many golden papers and apples, and all around dolls, small horses. And in the room, children are running about, dressed up and clean, laughing and playing, eating and drinking something. A girl has started dancing with a boy. What a pretty girl. And there is music, heard through the glass. The boy looks, marvels, and is already laughing, but his little fingers and feet hurt so much, and his hands are completely red and cannot bend. It hurts to move them at all. Suddenly he remembered how much his fingers hurt, cried out, and ran further. And again he sees through another window a room. Again trees, but there are pies of all kinds on the tables, almond, red, yellow. And there 4 rich ladies sit, and whoever comes, they give him a pie. And at any moment the door opens, and many gentlemen enter from the street. The boy crept up, suddenly opened the door, and stepped in. Oh, how they all yelled at him and waved him away. One lady hurried over and shoved a kopeck into his hand while she opened the door for him to leave. How frightened he was. And the kopeck rolled out and clinked down the steps. He couldn't bend his red fingers to hold onto it. The boy ran out and hurried away as quickly as he could, but where to he didn't even know. He wanted to cry again, but was afraid, and ran, blowing on his hands. And he was overcome by melancholy because he suddenly felt so lonely and scared, and suddenly, Lord, what is this again? A crowd of people stood around marveling. In the window behind the glass were 3 dolls, tiny, dressed in red and green dresses and looking completely alive. An old man sat there, seemingly playing a large violin. The other 2 stood nearby, playing little violins too, rocking their heads in time, looking at each other, their lips moving. They were talking, really talking. Only it was silent from behind the glass. The boy first thought they were alive, but when he figured out they were dolls, he suddenly laughed. He had never seen such dolls and didn't even know they existed, and he wanted to cry, but it was so funny to see the dolls. Suddenly he felt someone grab him from behind by his little robe. A big nasty boy stood beside him and suddenly slapped him on the head, snatched away his cap, and kicked him from below. The little boy fell to the ground. He cried out, was stunned, jumped up, and ran away. Suddenly, he didn't even know where he was going, into an alley, into a stranger's yard, and sat down behind some firewood. They won't find me here, and it's dark. He sat down and huddled up, unable to catch his breath from fear, and suddenly, quite suddenly, he felt so good. His little hands and feet suddenly stopped hurting, and it became so warm as if he were on the stove. He shuddered all over. Oh, he must have dozed off. How good it would be to sleep here. I'll sit here and then go look at the dolls again, thought the boy, smiling as he remembered them, just like they are alive. And suddenly he thought he heard his mother singing to him. Mama, I'm sleeping. Oh, how good it is to sleep here. Come to my Christmas tree, little boy. A quiet voice suddenly whispered above him. He thought for a moment that it was his mother, but no, it wasn't her. Who called him he couldn't see, but someone leaned over him and embraced him in the darkness, and he extended his hand to him, and suddenly, oh, what light! Oh, what a tree! But it wasn't even a tree. He had never seen trees like this. Where is he now? Everything is sparkling, everything is shining, and all around are girls and boys. But they are not just girls and boys. They are so bright. They all swirl around him flying. They all kiss him, take him, carry him with them. And he himself is flying, and he sees. His mother is looking at him and smiling joyfully. Mama, Mama, oh, how wonderful it is here, Mama! The boy cries to her and again kisses the children, wanting to tell them quickly about the dolls behind the glass. Who are you, boys? Who are you, girls? He asks, laughing and loving them. This is Christ's Christmas tree, they answer him. With Christ, there is always a Christmas tree for little children who don't have their own tree. And he learned that these boys and girls were all like him, children, but some froze to death in their baskets left on the steps of St. Petersburg officials. Others suffocated in orphanages. Third died at the shriveled breast of their mothers during the Samara famine, while the fourth suffocated in third-class train cars from foul air. And now they are all here, all as angels, all with Christ, and he is right in the middle of them, and he stretches out his hands to them and blesses them and their sinful mothers. And the mothers of these children stand right here on the side, and they cry. Each recognizes her boy or girl, and they fly to them and kiss them, wiping their tears with their little hands and begging them not to cry because they feel so good here. And in the morning, the janitors found the tiny corpse of the little boy who had run away and frozen behind the firewood. They found his mother. She had died even before him. Both were reunited with God in heaven. And why did I invent such a story, so not suited to an ordinary rational diary, especially that of a writer? And I even promised to tell stories mainly about real events. But that is the matter. I can't shake the feeling and the impression that all of this could have actually happened. That is, the things that happened in the basement and behind the firewood, and regarding the Christmas tree with Christ. I really don't know how to say whether it could have happened or not. That's what I am a novelist for, to invent.